Hello Star Wars fans everywhere, welcome back to another theory video. So in this video I wanted to talk about another theory revolving around the Inquisitors and what connection they might have to Supreme Leader Snoke. I know the thing a lot of people automatically jump to when they see the title of the video is, oh wow, he's going to talk about Supreme Leader Snoke being the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels Season 1. And yes, I am going to touch on that, but I'm also going to talk about a few other things as well, about the Inquisitors in general, and that Supreme Leader Snoke might not have been the Grand Inquisitor overall, but he could have been an Inquisitor that was used during the time of the Empire, and why it could fit in the story. Not saying that it does, but why it possibly could. So there is a theory that after the Grand Inquisitor supposedly falls to his death after his duel with Kanan, he goes into hiding and later removes his Sith tattoos as a way of representing his abandonment of the Sith, which would fit in nicely to a theory that I have on why I don't think Supreme Leader Snoke is a Sith anymore, and if you'd like to check that one out, it is in the description down below. But moving on, it would fit in well with him not wanting to be a Sith Lord anymore. And if there is anything that can effectively remove tattoos, it would be in the Star Wars universe. And if Snoke did turn out to be the Grand Inquisitor, it would make sense that the Inquisitor would get to see the fall of the Empire and the fall of the Sith with Darth Vader and Darth Sidious, and not want to create that again when he decided to gain power and become the Supreme Leader of the First Order. We know that Supreme Leader Snoke is very, very old, and if the Inquisitor did turn out to be Supreme Leader Snoke, he would also be old as well. Much older than Luke, in fact. The big thing that punches a hole right in the middle of this theory is that Supreme Leader Snoke did have some involvement in the Clone Wars. Now, while it's possible that the Inquisitor could have had some minor involvement in the Clone Wars, he would have been very, very young. Not young enough to make some great impact. Possibly they could change it to where he was a Jedi Padawan at one point in time, and then the clones turned on the Jedi, and then he had to flee into exile, kind of like Kanan did, but I'm not sure if they'll go that route, just to give him a little bit of experience in the Clone Wars, since it's stated that the character does. Other than that, I think it fits semi-nicely. I don't think they'll end up going this route, but nonetheless, it's interesting to talk about. So at the end of the day, overall, I would say it's interesting to think that he could be the Grand Inquisitor that survived this fall. And of course, that fall after his duel with Kanan would give him a lot of injuries. Maybe injuries similar to what Supreme Leader Snoke has. Since Snoke appears to have some burns on his face, it would of course burn the Grand Inquisitor. But if I had to guess overall, I would say that he's not the Grand Inquisitor, simply because the Grand Inquisitor didn't have too much of an impact on the Clone Wars, which we know that Supreme Leader Snoke did have some impact on the Clone Wars. So now let's talk about Supreme Leader Snoke being a past Inquisitor himself. Now yes, Supreme Leader Snoke did have a big impact on the Clone Wars, we've stated that earlier. And I think Palpatine would not want someone that powerful to be an Inquisitor, someone who would have the potential to overthrow him and Darth Vader. But we have seen in the past certain people, certain characters, extremely powerful characters, have been able to hide their force sensitivity from others, or hide their level of force sensitivity, their level of powers in the force. And I think a good example of this would be Quinlan Vos with Asajj Ventress. If Supreme Leader Snoke was indeed at one point in time an Inquisitor, simply so that he could keep an eye on the Empire and look at the developments of the Empire, I think that would be really interesting. He would also have to worry about how much power he showed that he actually had, because Palpatine, we know he was very, very tedious about going through the different people that he had close to him. He wanted to make sure they were powerful enough that they could defend him, but at the same time that they didn't receive the proper amounts of training so that they couldn't overthrow him, or the right amount of Jedi or Sith training so they couldn't overthrow him, so that he still held that place in power very firmly. And that might have been in part of his downfall, but that's a video for another time. I'm simply saying that in order for Supreme Leader Snoke to at one point in time have been an Inquisitor, he would have had to hide his power very effectively, as we know that his power far exceeds that of any Inquisitor that we know of. Addressing Supreme Leader Snoke's age and that being the downfall of why he could not become an Inquisitor if he wanted to, I would say the age wouldn't matter so much as abilities and power. We've seen that before with the Jedi. There's been some extremely old Jedi that are still very powerful. I think Master Yoda is the perfect example of that. But the bigger question would be, with this person's extreme amount of age and them not being particularly powerful, but just slightly enough to cut it, would Palpatine be okay with letting them become an Inquisitor, or Darth Vader for that matter? And I think that if they met all the certain requirements that were needed to become an Inquisitor, even if they were old, if they had what was up to par to be an Inquisitor, I think that Darth Vader and both the Emperor would allow them to be in it. I think it would be cool to give them that new dynamic with them having Supreme Leader Snoke working under them this whole time without them knowing it, just so he could watch them, watch their downfall, and at the same time being extremely powerful, but not being able to show that power in fear of being destroyed by their combined power. That's just kind of my thought. I think it's very interesting. Do I think it's true? No, but it's still interesting to think about, and I'm very glad that we don't have all the pieces to the puzzle that is Supreme Leader Snoke at this point in time. And I have a few more theories that I'd like to talk about on the channel. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. May the Force be with you. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and have a great day.